Hi, this is Christopher Clark, Town Administrator for the Town of Harwich. I thought today I would talk a little bit about a situation that we had in the community here during this past summer. We had a tornado with, I believe, various microbursts associated with it come through and wreak some pretty good devastation on the town. Very fortunately, the tornado did not cause any loss of life or any significant injury. So we are very fortunate that that occurred, that we were able to have no loss of life. I think some of that was just due to the early warning that is offered to us by the various agencies and the media that provide that service. Now that the tornado has gone through, we kind of went through some initial phases. The first phase is to make sure that people are safe and that we check on people. There were several streets that were closed because of the extensive amount of tree damage that was done. So your first priority was to make sure that we get the people safe. Once that was kind of established, that we had checked in on people that were sometimes are in need. That became then the second priority, was to see how quickly we could get the power on safely. Being in the middle of summer, we wanted to make sure that there are a lot of tourists that come down and spend their vacation time with us. And we wanted to make sure that we had the services back up as quickly as possible. So our secondary focus after the public safety focus was to make sure that we could get the electricity on. Initially, I thought Eversource in the town were a little bit disjointed, very initially. We went down really that same day. It happened on a Tuesday around noontime, and we had people coming into our emergency command center that afternoon and into the evening. Eversource really was able to step up the next day and have a lot of crews. I believe it was 340 crews, tree crews and line crews in town. And the town had a lot of resources that we had deployed, front-end loaders and things of that nature. Sorry. And once we had our crews and the power was off in certain areas, we were able to clear the roads fairly effectively. And once the roads were cleared, then the electric company could get in and do their job of actually starting to restore service. I'm actually pretty proud of the fact that we as an organization, by working together in a team-like environment throughout the organization, were able to work with Eversource. So I believe we were about 36 hours, about a day and a half in, and we were able to restore virtually all the power to the homes in Harwich. So we wanted to try to make sure that we got people with their power back on, because we wanted to be as little disruption as we could to their vacation, or even full-time residents that live here year-round. The other part to that was, once the storm had done and the cleanup was underway, we realized that it was significantly a tree event. So I appreciate very much that we had two things. One, our DPW were fully deployed. People may not remember that there was a small microburst the night before, so we had our tree people out and our DPW people out the night before the tornado struck. So to have 2 days in a row of events left us a little bit taxed in terms of people working a lot of hours. But I think DPW did an outstanding job kind of stepping up to the challenge. I think also, just in terms of this, an acknowledgement has to be made to the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House, our legislative delegation, Sarah Peak, Julian Sear. I was on the phone with actually quite a few of those folks pretty quickly right after the event, saying that we need to have resources down here, we need help. And the lieutenant governor and the governor sent a lot of the state agencies down. So we had Department of Corrections, Department of Transportation, Forestry. I'm sure I'm going to miss a few, but quite a bit of state resources came in. And what that allowed us to do was to continue the cleanup and to clear streets and to make sure that we had areas safe. A lot of trees were damaged and partially knocked over, or hangers, branches that had fallen high up in the tree that were ready to fall once the wind blew. So there was a lot to give some consideration to. We made a concerted effort to kind of continue to make those cleanups. We had several towns. You know, the nice thing about being in municipal government It is more of a team environment, and I think people work together cooperatively generally. And to have several other towns come down and help us, I had several calls saying, what do you need? How can we help? So just organizationally, I was just very proud of us as an organization to respond to the challenge. We had health inspectors ready to go, so the power was out for an extended period, that restaurants would reopen safely. The building inspector had additional staff that he utilized. Our Council on Aging did wellness checks on people, calling to make sure that they had survived the storm. So just organizationally, there's so many people that really just pulled together, all working, I think, for the concerted purpose of helping the residents of the town of Harwich and those that are visiting us. I would say that one of the challenges after we kind of get through that was to rely upon or try to get the paperwork. Unfortunately, government is pretty heavily bureaucratic, and so we tried to get the paperwork together to see if we could justify FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to see if we would qualify for FEMA. Our initial assessment was about $3.2 million. We were probably the hardest hit community down on Cape Cod from the tornado. So our initial number was I think in a range where we needed to have it. Unfortunately, the FEMA people don't do tree replacements, don't really do stump grinding and some of those other elements. So when we submitted the actual paperwork, it went down to about $1.3 million of eligible costs. We still have the costs, it's just what was eligible and what's not. So FEMA was not going to be an option. We have now subsequently learned that overall Cape-wide we were about 3.6, well below the 9.6 threshold that we needed to be at to qualify. So we have put in requests to the governor, lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House, and our legislative delegation to see if the state could do a supplemental budget to help us. Certainly becoming a AAA bond rated community, we have the ability to cover some of these costs and to help ourselves, but it took several years to build up those reserves, and the tornado is really an act of God, so there were several elements in other parts of the state that had emergency or natural disasters that the state has participated on, so we hope that the state will participate in this. So I just wanted to take a little bit just to kind of do a little bit of an overview of what transpired in a kind of an eventful summer in 2019. And again, once again, very happy that the town came through without any casualties or injuries, and just want to express my deep appreciation to all the residents of the community that helped us get through this, and to all the men and women of the town of Harwich workforce and the elected officials that came down to assist and help in terms of the review, but also the real, I think, sincere consideration for helping us to fund a cleanup effort. We are a tourism destination for a lot of areas, a lot of people throughout the U.S. and other areas. So I think getting us back on our feet so people, the tourists, could continue was kind of a key component. And I think we were pretty successful in accomplishing that. So a little bit of a different spin this time, but just wanted to express my appreciation to all the different resources and assistance that we received. Christopher Clark, Town Administrator, Town of Harwich, thank you for your time and attention.